All yours, Ty.
All right, we're ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me get my put up my
Alright,
notes here.
we got a lot to talk about tonight. And I'm gonna tell you all, Pam's speaking of time limits, I've got a meeting at 5:30. So if we're not through, then I will step out and y'all can continue, but I think we'll be pretty close to the end.
In the spirit of the academic banquet, I think we can do it.
I get it.
I'm gonna keep mine to 1 minute or less. No, I'll do that tonight. I should
All right, so, there will be no quid pro quo, what is it called, quid pro quo in this meeting today, or bribery at all, none of the above. So, all right, so, I guess the first thing on the agenda is to talk about the land swap that's been proposed. And so I'm looking through here, and I guess the way I see this is that where the blue and the green intersected, the Temple ISD, Belton ISD, there in that corner where that street is Aquila, he gets finishing out of one of his developments.
That's
It's in
correct.
TISD at the moment.
That's correct,
So he wants to swap that with the other square down to the right.
yeah.
And the way you put it in the report a couple weeks ago, it's kind of a wash. Doesn't benefit us, it doesn't hurt us, but it's a goodwill gesture to a developer that does a lot for our district.
I so agree. It finishes out his neighborhood where his whole neighborhood is BISD.
Yeah.
You know, if anything, I don't understand the TISD side because how rooftops are very difficult for them to attain. I know when I was superintendent there because it's so business and industry. But they will gain more industry and we will gain more rooftops and it's just a few. I think there's 26 home sites, so relatively small. So
Yeah,
yes, Ty, you're right on.
So, any discussion on that? Any concerns? So do we put that on the agenda for a vote? Is that how that'll work? Y'all
Yeah.
have to kind of walk me through this a couple
Yes,
times.
sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so,
And I do wanna add, the little lot that BISD will be trading is a little, it's on a circle, I drove by it, it's just an odd little space, so
Yeah.
that's.
okay. Is everybody in agreement with that? Go ahead and proceed with that.
Thank you.
It'll help us in the long run, because
Good idea.
parents get really upset if you
Okay, all right, so, and then it gave all the land descriptions and all the surveys and all that stuff. I read through all that stuff. That's just, for several pages, that's just a kind of a continuance of that part of the project.
And John will pay, his attorney to put the document together, obviously we'll run it through Angela Teagle, on our end, but that initial document will be done at his expense.
Perfect. All right. Does someone have a copy of the agenda? Oh, here we go. Now we're down to the next one is the lights?
No, sir?
What's,
There's one more underneath John Keelan,
yeah,
and he wishes to, he said repurchase.
Oh.
So I am presuming it was something that maybe he sold to the district at one point in time. And if you look on page 26,
yeah,
you'll see it. It's less than an acre.
okay.
I have walked that as well, and if you walk it, you're in the weeds, because I mean, it's a blank slate out in the middle of nowhere. It's not going to harm BIC in the slightest. Again, I think he has been a great developer, and he has worked with the BIC well. It's not, we're not going to be building anything on .963 acres, and so I see nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
Yeah, you see that adjoins to that 13, I guess that blue there's his.
But that's ours.
Oh, that's ours,
Yeah.
at the north gate.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then we own that little bitty .96.
Yeah.
Now, is this the thing that we talked about 2 years ago about the drainage thing? Was that in that same neighborhood, remember that one?
That was not even developed yet.
Okay, alright. So we good on that one?
Yeah. There's nothing there. We can't do anything with it.
And I have talked to Ms. Tickle on both of these, just because she has some history and she had a trouble with it. Okay.
Alright, so we're good with putting those on the agenda for approval or vote. Alright, then we're moving on. So I guess between the last time we met and we had our list of items, I think Robin said it best, that now we've approved a lot of things, more requests are gonna be coming in.
And they are.
Yep, and we like that, because it's
That's good.
opportunities for us to do things
Yeah, that's
for
good.
people, and to spend the money that the stakeholders have put out there, and we've got left from different things. So I guess my son graduated 3 years ago, and he played on the baseball field, and we always thought it was a dim it was just really not very safe. And my son was a catcher, and whenever Mahia would pitch and throw those 91-mile-an-hour sinkers and they would bounce, it was really hard for John to block those. So this is something that has been needing to happen for a while. I just think for the safety of our kids. And I was looking through the specs and everything. We're gonna go with the 750. That's the 85,000 lumens, I guess, is what it is. I remember seeing that. So, and then I looked down further now. Is this the deal where we can program these lights to do different things?
You can. There's a feature where you can actually use an app on your phone to turn it on and off.
Now, is there a way to order these things without that and reduce the
Yes.
price?
Yes. So two things with that. Yes, to that question. And secondly, as I told Dr. Battershell, this is one number. I would like to get another number from RK Bass.
Okay.
They're gonna be doing our electrical work at the PAC lighting, and they're good at field lighting, so I like.
Are they doing the field lighting at the new field?
They did.
Yeah.
Did they do
Yeah.
LED
They
like
did.
this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking
That would be awesome. They're local. Where are these guys? Where are they out of? These all?
Oh, gosh, I think they have a local rep. I'm not sure where they're headquartered out of.
They have an impressive resume of the different events that
Yeah.
they've been in.
Sam Skidmore is the one that called these guys, so he's got some relationship with them. Do you know anything about him?
They came and did at night and did a study, and they took a meter around and measured it all throughout the field and kind of came up with a safety rating and things on it. But as far as where the home, the rep that came is from Abilene, but he's out of the Austin area, that's where he came from. So they're not local.
What is your background in athletics? What do you
We
think?
didn't do it. That's the one, softball field is fairly new, but the baseball field, that's an older facility. It's very well maintained and kept up, but the lights, I mean, it's an 8-pole system, where most new systems are a 4-pole system. And, it's just something that hasn't been updated in, I don't know, years. The lighting hasn't, so.
I sat at a table in SLI my first year with, I think, some guys from Granger, and they don't have a lot of money, and they asked about if we ever were to get rid of some of our lighting. So is there a chance for us to be able to recycle that? It's maybe a smaller school district that might be in need?
Certainly can visit that.
We just need to make sure that we would not be held liable for any issues.
I think we would have to stay with an 8-pole system on this because of the height. If you went to a 4-pole, these poles would, the way he explained it to us, a 4-pole system, the lights have to be higher because they have to cover more space. An 8-pole system, they don't have to be as high because they don't have to cover as much area. So I think we would have to stay with an 8-pole system. That's
Yeah.
what
So
from this
we're-
company, that's what the understanding
Yeah,
is.
we're reusing the existing poles.
Okay.
And we think the main electrical feed to the light base may need a little repair, but that's nothing.
How long do you think, if you talk to RK Bass, for them to generate a number?
I can probably get it fairly quickly.
Okay.
With next week,
I
probably.
mean, they did the lighting on the field we just built.
Yeah.
And it's the same product, you think? Or is it an LED? It's an LED
Yeah,
light, it may not have all the
yeah, it
functions.
may not be the same brand, but yeah, it's an LED
Honestly,
field light.
I mean, as long as you're getting the same lumens for about the same price, to
Right.
me, it's the same type of light. We don't
Yeah.
need all
Mm-mm.
No.
the stuff to go on. And then, cause they start trying out the last week in January, so I guess the sooner the better.
Mhm.
So maybe we can get, I don't know what the turnaround time is on that kind of thing.
Well, he turned around the PAC lighting number to me fairly quick.
Okay, hold. We get into legal stuff here because we are over a certain threshold. So
Mhm.
Jennifer talked to you a little bit about bid process and what needs to happen.
Okay.
So I think we probably have a couple of options. We could either bid it through an RFP, or if we use buy board vendors, we could possibly bid it through buy board. So we would have to determine which route we would want to take. But I definitely think for the sake of competition and given the dollar amount, we need to bid it.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. We don't wanna,
And that's a 30-day process to do the RFP?
It depends on the timing. We have holidays coming up.
Mhm.
So that would make it a little bit more lengthy, but if we do buy board bidding, we could shorten that possibly.
Okay.
But I'd have to ask Tammy to see
I think
if
RK
this is
Bass might be.
something that we could bid
I'll shoot
via
an
buy
email real
board.
quick.
I wonder if these guys that Sam put in here, are they not on our,
I'm pretty sure usually he works with vendors who are, but we would buy board bid,
Well, by all means.
if not an RFP process.
That's fine.
So I think you can anticipate this coming back to you in January. And it's a question mark for me whether or not we'll be able to hit baseball season. Because I really don't wanna hit this in the middle of baseball season after they start. So don't go out and promise anything, because we don't know. There are things that we got to do right at the beginning.
Okay.
But they will certainly have it for their 2021 season, without a doubt.
Okay.
Operational for this baseball season?
All right, so we'll do that, go through the process, make sure we're doing it the way it needs to be done. Y'all gotta hold me back sometime.
Oh, sorry, I did think the coaching sign time.
Just gotta pull the reins back on me sometimes, that's fine.
Well, I think it's great, and I'm so glad we're able to do this, and, if the board approves it, I think it's great, it's needed, it's a safety feature, we just need to make sure we go to the legal.
And I also think it goes in that spirit of the equality thing. It lets the Belton High School folks know, hey, we still need to be cognizant of that through everything that we do, making sure that south of the, river's gonna get taken care of
So true,
with cool stuff.
very true, very true.
All right, so we are up to the construction update.
Robert, anything, David?
Yeah, so, everybody's got this, so sort of ignore the previous, what
Well,
you had.
actually, what's the long sheet is the capital improvements list and timeline for completion. So I don't think we have, because y'all just had a construction update at the school board meeting.
Yeah, we got that.
For the new high
Okay.
school and for the orchestra,
And there
so,
wasn't any change orders this
no,
time.
I don't think there's anything
No.
new at this point in time. Robert, no other change orders I get, or at this 2 days later, or
No.
something.
2 days later.
You never know, things
Yeah,
change.
on item D, if you wanna,
I'm sorry to stop you, David, but
Okay.
we're coming to you.
on item D, if you wanna skip ahead, kinda looking ahead for what you could see as change orders, we probably have 4 things, all of which would be at Lake Elfin High School. Currently, we have under consideration, it's with Combs and the architect right now for their final review, but we're exploring some additional cameras for the exterior on the northwest side of the high school. So it's gonna be about $16,000. We haven't received their input back, so that amount may come down a little bit. But that's one thing. This Friday, David and Jill Ross and I and Jared will meet out at the high school. We're gonna walk through the front office area. Jill would like to explore redesigning the security vestibule so that it becomes more of a real security vestibule, which means that it would be controlled access. You'd have 2 sets of doors, space between those 2 sets of doors, but then it would be controlled access into the office itself, and perhaps have a transaction window. It's a little bit different design than what is currently underway, so we're gonna look at that. That could result in a change order, and probably will.
Have they paused construction on that part right now because of that? Are they really
No.
far along?
Yeah, it's pretty far along, but it's still doable, and that's what we're gonna meet out there and see, how can we make this work. And again, when I say a change order, all of these, it's kinda nomenclature, cause it's not really a change order, cause it doesn't change the contractor amount or add additional days. But it is a change that comes out of the funding that's contained under owner's contingency. So that would be one.
Robert, just on Hurdle, one of the things that you approved in your capital improvements list was to put a secure vestibule at the front of that too.
That's correct.
Correct.
So this is that same thread, is that we want all of our campuses to have that secure vestibule.
Along that same line, while we're out there on Friday, we're also gonna look at some additional doors, particularly on the west side of the campus, down by the fine arts area and the gyms, to kind of cordon off the gyms as best we can. And so those would be magnetic release kinds of doors, at least at this point. That's what we're contemplating. So that could potentially be a beat up from owner's contingency, or deduction from owner's contingency. And then Mike had Doug Taylor present to the safety committee this afternoon that we're moving ahead with these vape detectors. We probably need to have that discussion before Lake Belton High School, because that can be incorporated into the project.
While we're building it.
So that might also be a potential deduct for owner's contingency. Those four things, two of which were related to security. Well, I guess vaping would also be security.
Can someone tell me how effective these detectors are?
What we've been told so far is they're very effective. And I think there's two sides to that coin. There's the prevention and the intervention side. And the intervention side is in real time, they will alert the office, then you depend upon your security cameras to pick up whoever came in or out of that bathroom. I think on the prevention side though, they have a greater side to them. Because when, it's like drug dogs, you know, when students know they're there and they're much less likely to vape on campus, which means maybe they're much less likely to just vape, period. I can't control what they do across the street, but at least in schools, we can make it where it's not conducive to that. Robert,
And
do you
at the
want to?
orchestra, we've had about $29,000 in expenses charged against the owner's contingency. And it's mostly related to the asphalt paving that will happen in the front.
Oh, okay.
Robert, do you want to tell them a little bit about our meeting the other day on interior windows? Because that will be a
Yes,
potential.
and that potentially also, I guess that should be number 5, because we have a lot of interior windows in Lake Belton High School, so we are exploring blinds, curtains, and shades. All 3 of those devices is a security measure, and so
Do we
that
also,
probably will be decided and maybe pushed toward the end of the project, so that we kind of are much clearer on final cost and on those kinds of things, and yet in a time that we can get it accomplished before the building opens up. So I'd probably look at that one coming forward maybe in April.
so we have several other schools that have large glass. Do we have the same thing for them?
Charter Oak was at that meeting, and so we're looking at Charter Oak. as well.
SBMS is the other one I'm thinking of.
Yep. Yes, we're looking at all of them.
Yeah, they had their first hard lockdown last month at Charter Oak, and
Yeah,
they were,
yeah.
Yeah,
no way to cover the windows.
right.
So,
Really, the only question is not that there's gonna be covering anymore, because there will be covering, it's what is the covering? And so what we talked about doing at that meeting is getting some samples, letting the principals look at those samples, visit with their teachers and staff and see what's best suited to them. And it really doesn't have to be the same between campuses, it can be different products. But it needs to be something that you can't see through, because that was part of the discussion at the meeting, is there's some that are relatively transparent, a shade or, you know, draper, and you can see straight through, and you don't want to have that.
Yeah, and one idea that's at least being talked about is at Lake Belton High School, you could fix shades that would roll down automatically when the doors are released, because we have, I can't remember how many, 7 secured doors that magnetic locks that release based on the panic button. And when those release, we could also have those shades come down. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
We're still very early in the exploration of all of that.
I don't think these are things that you can know ahead of time, you know, until you see a building and you walk that building and you look to see where your open spots are. I don't know that you can fully comprehend where you need these tweaks and things. I know these would happen in the election.
I think that, plus, I think security is just one of those issues that's kind of organic.
Right.
It changes day to day. And so what is secure today is not probably going to be the same. A year ago, I don't think anybody knew about these vape detectors.
sure.
No.
Didn't think about vaping 2 years ago.
Majority of our threat on campuses is from the inside.
That's right. And that's the other thing, you know, that almost invariably it's a student. So how do you,
Okay, Robert, anything else on change?
no.
Todd, can I ask you to flip the next 2, because I think the fall preliminary, I don't know, I'm sorry. Yeah, the fall preliminary demographic report, I think is gonna be a much, much bigger item. And so, maybe we let Dave okay with you, go ahead and
Sure,
do that?
sure.
Okay. Everybody has the spreadsheet. So the last meeting, everything was pretty much green or yellow, ranking priority. So we changed the colors a little bit now. On the last sheet, you'll see what these colors really mean. So everything in green that you see is work that is scheduled, meaning we have a timeline in place, contracts issued, or we have procured equipment. The items in red are work that we have completed since we last met. So that's 23 items that we've completed, and we have 39 items scheduled to be completed here in the near future. There are some that are still, well, say some, quite a few that are still bidding, which we are working on that. Sometimes takes a little long when we have multiple pieces, so we're trying to get all that bidding in place. And then we have about 12 items in gray that the architect is working with us, trying to figure out some of these storage spaces and whatnot. Items in yellow were items that literally were added in the last couple of days, and these are, Deanna's laughing because one of them's hers. So we have 2 requests added at Belton High School, one at DAP to subdivide some spaces over there. Lake Belton Middle School has 4 items that we've added, actually 3, I'm sorry. And then Leon Heights has 1, and then Portal has 1. There's also 1 added at Tarver, as well as 1 in administration. The administration, I put it under administration, it's really the health science field over here on 6. Deanna and Oscar, some others walked at, so she sent me a little plan of what you sort of anticipating there.
So that building was housing our health science programs, and those have moved back to the main campus. It's not conducive for students to be in that building just because we incur transportation costs, and so now we can have those programs at Belton High School. We have an overcrowding in the administration building, and we have offices where people are doubled and tripled up. And so what I would propose is looking at putting special ed offices there. They have 21 staff that they would like to use that building for. And so there's nothing in there now, it's cleared out. And so right now what we did with Oscar was I just walked it, it's a great building. It's a nice one. And we're not gonna build I can't foresee us ever going out for bond for a new administration building. And so it's a great, we looked at it, and our next plan is to take the blueprint to propose where we would ask for walls and doors and need extra drops and put in carpet and then ask them to bid and see what that would cost. And Jennifer Ramirez is definitely hoping that would happen. In case you don't know, special ed completely offices on almost the entire downstairs. And so then if they vacated, we could use additional spaces in C&I where there's overcrowding and in technology.
So really what we need from you all is approval to move forward with getting some bids and hard cost for you on those TBD items, is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
That just goes on the agenda for December's meeting.
For you guys, yeah.
And with that health
Not
science
before.
building, we'll need to do something with that front parking lot.
The front parking lot is
Because we won't
right,
have cost
but there's,
estimates ready
I mean,
until our next group meeting here.
we did we had someone ask us about purchasing it, and I think Angela looked at it, but then we talked about, it's really good real estate still for us for
Yeah.
office space. It's really not good space to add on for New Tech. We ended up putting them in the old Head Start. It's not helpful to have the high school kids walking by Shipley's or Golden Chick every day. Trust me on that one. And I've talked with Jennifer about the possibility of putting at some point in time a Delta program there, which is our 18-year-old plus special ed students. But right now we think the best use would be office space, and they would be the most likely department to benefit from that.
I remember when
So.
all of admin was in that
Wasn't
building.
that-
They were, you're
That's where I
right.
was hired.
So, it's kind of stock in history, and you can see where probably walls were, and could really, it's designed that you could have some nice classrooms, and
Yeah.
so,
It's a good building.
or nice
good
offices.
sound.
It's a really nice building. It's a really nice building, so,
I'm in.
Me
I think
too.
that's a good utilization of space, because as we're growing up with students, we grow in staff too, so, you know, we need more people.
So, along with that, just to sort of give you an idea of what we have scheduled next week during Thanksgiving break, we are doing 4 carpet jobs, carpet replacements. We're doing some work at the PAC, doing some painting at Belton High School, also some carpet at Leon Heights, and we are pouring some concrete sidewalks at various campuses. Actually, next week is EAP, Sparta, South Belton. If I overwhelm the concrete guy too much, he just gets a headache, so I give him a little at a time. And
Hey, I wanted to ask you, we were able to go walk the Southwest campus last week,
Mhm.
and I see the one red already, and I guess 4 green, so we're moving
Mhm.
on these things. I remember seeing a date on the painting of the interior and stuff for the summer, I guess. How long is that, would that project take, 30 days, 60 days to do that much painting?
Well, here's the challenge, so, a lot of it depends on 2 things. One is, are they having summer school in that building? Do they have any after summer programs in that building? And then the third is coordinating all that with the cleaning staff, because they strip and wax floors, so it's hard to do all that at the same time. So we're
we
still,
just need to know where to have, so we can pull a summer program off of Southwest, Miller Heights. We need a school to have it, preferably, one in the south. So if we could be in Chisholm Trail, if we could be in
you can have.
Sparta, then we can just move
You
the
can
summer
do
school.
that, that
That's
would
not a
help. I
problem.
can coordinate the cleaning aspect of it and just tell them that they can come and strip and wax after we get through with
If
painting.
you actually here though, you've got replacing of the VCT in the hallways, so you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Right, well, it's not all the hallways, it's just
Oh.
that one hallway.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And Miller Heights is not one that you need us in either?
Painting wise, I think.
Well, these are things I think that we can, Deanna, can't we iron these out?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's iron that
Yeah.
out another time.
Okay.
So that's just a challenge, it's just a logistical thing, we'll work through that.
Mhm.
Then the other thing is, I want everyone here to understand, because I've had this call probably 5 or 6 times this week, like, how much are y'all doing during Christmas break? This year, my guys, for the first time since I've been here, actually get Christmas off, a full 12 days. In the past, they've gotten like 3 days, but just because of the way they fell. So, we're gonna do some work during Christmas, but we won't have a 2-week window in there where we can go back. Now, they come back on the 2nd, I think staff comes back on the 8th, I believe, so we'll have some at the end of Christmas that we can do. 6th or the 8th, I can't
The
remember.
kids come on the 8th, teachers come
On the 6th. So we'll have a few days there too. But, Oscar's doing a really good job of every time we see a little window, we've got something we can plug into that spot. And that's sort of what we've been doing with these items in red.
David, you've done a really, really good job.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank
thank
you, we really appreciate it.
I just want everybody to not have unrealistic expectations, but I think everybody in this room knows us, we'll
Yeah,
do
we do.
whatever we can do to get it done.
You're on point.
How,
Thank you.
David, how do you feel about all of this?
It's a lot, but I'm glad it's getting done. It's things that need to be done. I think it's a good use of funds, and we're excited. It's a challenge. I love challenges.
There is one thing, walking that southwest, that we maybe need to put on the list in yellow or whatever, but the smell, there's some issues over there with the sewer.
There are, we know, and I meant to call you back on that, you wanna discuss that now?
I just, after our tour the other day, David and I talked, and I said over Christmas break it needs to be fixed, or whether we need to bring up the floor, we haven't talked since.
It's gonna be fixed Monday and Tuesday next week.
Thank you so much.
What is this? Are we bringing in a commercial plumber to do it, or what is it?
There's 2 roofs on that building, and there's a space about 24 inches between the 2 roofs. So the vents to those old bathrooms
Or dumping the vents, right?
into to the space, it never was vented all the way through the roof.
I'll be darned.
Apparently for several years.
Wow.
I do wanna mention that if you drive by the high school, you'll also see that the furniture replacement is happening next week.
Okay.
So that's phase 3.
Yeah, thank you.
So they've got the old stuff out back,
Three of three.
This is
Okay.
the 3rd and final phase. Did they get one?
the old stuff's out back piled up, is that what you're?
You're warning people about.
Wait for it to come through.
I get calls every,
I get
last time y'all
texts and
did that.
pictures last time we got that.
That's why I mentioned it. No,
Yeah.
we are utilizing a different method this time, and we hope that it works. We're doing roll-offs, and we are actually recycling
Oh,
to
good,
get some money back.
good, perfect. All right, so we ready for the,
We are, big dog.
demographic
Look, look.
report?
Okay, if you will pull this sheet, this is out of your Templeton demographics stuff. And this was something I had asked, Michelle Box to produce for us, and then I went out real quick, and if you will share, this is straight out of her report, because I think we're gonna need these 2 documents. So if you'll take one and share between 2 people,
It's this one, it doesn't look like hers, but it's this.
oh, no, I don't wanna change it, well, no, they'll do that.
It's fine.
You can see my circle.
Yes, and we can see the writing.
Okay, good.
Second to last page.
Yeah, that's right, she showed us.
Oh, I trust me, I've already seen it. Had a meeting on this,
Okay.
and I was displeased.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna start with the more yellow one, and what you'll see is with your greens and your blues, that those are areas of housing development and change. So when you look at this, you'll see Tarver big time, I mean, it's just all over the place. You see very, very little in High Point. And then down at Chisholm Trail, even though there's one blue area, it's a huge blue area. And then you'll see some to the west of Chisholm Trail School, and then some to the east, and that's just a really big geographic area. So, in summary, to recap, and you look up at the numbers at the top, the Tarver and the Chisholm Trail right now are our 2 highest growth. Charter Oaks is behind, but Charter Oaks has a lot of capacity. And you saw that the other night when Michelle gave that report at the board meeting. So Charter Oaks is not a capacity issue right now. So just keep this in mind. Now, I want you to look at the one that was in your packet. And you'll see Battershell writing on it. The circles, the green circles, are where we currently own property. And the reason that these 2 go hand in hand is because you want to have your land, obviously, where you have your growth. And what I wanted to do, and that's the reason my notes are over here, is the senior leadership team talked about this. So we visited with Michelle, and then we had a conversation about, okay, what are some options that we can bring to you guys? The first option, I'll just read them off and then y'all can talk. The first option was, because we are underserved at High Point and at Charter Oak right now, those campuses are not at capacity, they're not near capacity at this point in time. And you've got Tarver and Pirtle that are kind of busting at the seams, that you may want to consider, and that's all we're doing at this point in time is maze, but you may want to consider some rezoning in that northeast quadrant to better fill the 2 campuses that are underutilized, and reduce the stress on those that are overutilized right now, so it balances them out. The other one that you got in here is number 2, and that's consolidate Leon Heights into Charter Oaks. Leon Heights is very, very small. I know you've had some pressure over the years to not close that campus, and I don't know, again, I attended a meeting today, No, we're kind of changed my viewpoint on this one, but I think Leon Heights is just a regular elementary campus in its existing form. I don't think it is good instructionally. I think our groups are too small. I think our special programs, and this is through the principal, this isn't really a Battersea, Deanna and I visited together. When you get campuses or school districts that are too small, you just don't have as many resources, and you don't have the richness and depth of discussions and the ability for kids to get all the services they need. So Leon Heights, something needs to happen with Leon Heights. Not quite sure after today's visit, but we had Commissioner Morath that spoke to us at the service center. He was telling us about some opportunities at the state, and so that's why, and it will be on a news of the week at some point in time, but there was just a lot of information. So that's another thought. The third thought is you've got Chisholm Trail that's overcrowded. And I'm gonna have Jennifer speak here in just a minute. I'm setting her up to talk to you about funding that we have current and potentially future. Chisholm Trail is overcrowded now. And I think they've got maybe one road that's not used now, and they anticipate that being obviously used next year. I think they've got a big group coming up next year from what we heard. So that's a real concern. The fourth one is Tarver, same situation. You can look at, instead of building whole campuses, because those are new campuses, you can look at just adding wings onto those campuses, which saves you a little bit on your M&O, because you still have your same administration. You don't have to replicate your front office staff, you don't have to replicate custodians and, you know, all that other kind of stuff. So those are some thoughts for you. And then the fifth one is future bond, and I gave you the current INS tax rate is at 0.3968. And Jennifer, and she's gonna circle back on this one, we don't have a lot of capacity right now on the interest and sinking. She has looked at a schedule for bonds, and when they come up, and we can refinance some of them. It is in your packet, I put that in there, I'm gonna refer to that one. So those are thoughts and ideas. Rezoning will gain you some. Wings, and these are in priority order. Adding wings will give you some capacity as well. It will put you further out in having to pass a bond, which will hopefully gain you some more capacity on your interest in sinking. And then the last one would be obviously bonds. So with that.
So if you look at our outstanding debt schedule, this is as of the end of the fiscal year, 2019 to August 31st. We have been working toward making sure that we can increase our debt capacity to help support a bond. In the initial goal was sometime between 2023 and 2025. It's the conversations that were being had. And I know you're aware that 2 years ago, with the tax changes, you can no longer advance refund. So now we have to wait until bonds are callable. And at this time, we won't have bonds callable until February of 2021. But I want to point out that only because a bond is callable does not mean that we would exercise that option. It depends on market conditions, where the interest rate is right at the time, but it also depends on whether or not the fees that we would incur to refund callable bonds would offset any savings. We could overcome those fees with savings. But with that said, refunding bonds is one way to increase the debt capacity. Also, with some changes in House Bill 3, fortunately, INS was not touched, so we won't be subject to the 2.5% cap. But we have been looking at our INS rate, and if you recall, last year we kept the rate at the same to make sure that we could pay off some debt early and accelerate our capacity to refund or to go out for bonds. So at this time, I've been working with Specialized Public Finance. They have put together some numbers, but I've not had a chance to talk to Dr. Muller and Dr. Battershaw about those numbers. But as she mentioned, our debt capacity is not as much as we would like to see in the coming years without increasing our tax rate. We would have to max out our tax rate in order to get the biggest bang for our buck. So we are definitely monitoring that, and we'll bring back some numbers, and we can have a discussion about that. But when I talked to Specialized Public Finance, we went ahead and I asked them to do a schedule for if we went out for a bond in 2021. And we had some 2023 numbers already, but I asked them to update it to 2021. And so we'll look at that and see. And that's just, it doesn't mean that we will do that, but it is just a look to see if we needed to, what we could possibly do. But just know that we're constantly monitoring that number and trying to make sure that we do have the capacity to do what we need to do without burdening our taxpayers too much. But in a fast growth district, these are the growing pains that we have and we anticipate.
What I'd like for you to think about doing is, we've got a Templeton report, but that's not a strategic plan, it's a report. Is really doing some strategic planning within your facilities committee and determining what you can do in a year, what you can do in 3 years, and what you can do in 5 years, because that starts laying out to your taxpayers, you can anticipate this. And today is not the day to do that, but the concept is what I give to you. And in that concept, then you can start picking and choosing the things that you absolutely can do next year, because I think you're gonna have to do some things next year, and you can do smaller, less painful things next year. And then you're gonna have to take another step in the next 2 years, because you're still not gonna have that capacity. But you do have some operating cash, so Jennifer's gonna talk about that next.
So we have some, again, everybody knows that House Bill 3 was beneficial to us. So we do have some funds available in what we have been calling a contingency account, and that's what we pulled, the $3.5 million for these projects, the capital improvement list projects. We also have been looking at some just internal, we recently looked at what we call above allocation requests, and we were able to approve some of those just administratively, internally. And we've had just some other items that have come up that we've also been able to address. So we are prepared to utilize some fund balance dollars in order to address additional needs. But also, we anticipate having funding remaining from the 2017 bond as well. We cannot designate use of those dollars until we finish the current projects within that bond. I've talked to our bond counsel about that. And also with the changes in the law in the last legislative session, with having to get approval to use remaining funds, we have written, our bond language was written in such a way that we will not have to do that. We keep our bond language very general, and so we have some flexibility in how we use those funds that are remaining from the 2017 bond. One thing I don't want is for taxpayers to think that we issued those bonds and didn't need the money. That's not the case. We have been very successful in terms of investing, and we have earned millions of dollars, right to date over $3 million, and we anticipate earning about $4 million in interest from those proceeds. So coupled with some great value engineering, well, I won't call it value engineering, but cost savings from the projects that were realized, I think we will have some dollars left over from the 2017 bond authorization that we will definitely use to support future projects.
Can we get someone, we have the stuff from Templeton, which again, there's just numbers, but can we get someone to come up with a strategy with maybe 3 or 4 different strategies that we could look at as to, you know, transitioning students from here to here, and, you know, just look at it so that we would know, not in today's meeting obviously, but at some point we could look at it and say, okay, if we move this neighborhood here, how much time does it buy us, and what does it do for us? I don't think we would wanna pull the trigger on that until the new super is in place, but I would like to have that report so we can sit down with them and say, hey, this is a problem, by the way, here are some solutions to it, let's walk through the situation of doing these things, which they have to be done, like you said, and then try to make it as least painful as possible. But right now, I mean, we do know, okay, we're kind of open up here, you know, where do we pull students from and move them to give us the biggest bang for the buck to get us through maybe 12 months or 24 months, buys us time to talk about, you know, you've got your two new schools are the easiest ones to build onto, correct, because of the way they're built?
Well, I was thinking, so Chisholm Trail and Harvard would be very easy to add a wing.
That's correct.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion.
And that's the two heavy need areas anyway at this
Right.
point.
But even before that, I think you need to look and I think this is what you're talking about, Jeff, you need to look at the impact of doing some rezoning.
Yeah, moving kids to like,
Mike, could you do something like that?
Yeah, 'cause like- well, because we know that based on the numbers that Templeton gives us, you know, this school's maxed out, this one will be maxed out in 3 years, and to maximize that stretch time, because if we have 3 schools that are, say, maxed out, and then you have a High Point sitting in there at 65% capacity, we should be able to stretch some students up there and buy us time. That's all we're doing is buying time.
That's right, and that's our thought, Jeff, you know, use the easiest things possible, that
Right.
is the least expensive, least intrusive thing possible. I think you're still going to be looking at adding some wings to those 2 campuses, not next year.
some point, right.
And if you approved it tonight, it wouldn't be for next year.
Right.
But for the future, and we can look at, see what the capacity for additional wings are, and we can go on and get you some numbers on that, I mean, that's not
Yeah,
hard
what
to
is a
do.
wing, how many classrooms do you get out of the wing, 12?
Depends on what you-
Well, at elementary, I think we got like 6 classrooms
Six.
in a wing, so, I'm gonna say that's somewhere between 6,000-7,000 square feet.
I mean, the good news is we do have some capacity in some of these schools
Right.
where we can move people, you know, at least for a while, till we know what we're gonna do, buys us time, and also doesn't dump something on the new super's lap that maybe they're not prepared for. And like the Leon Heights situation, you know, that's one that, you know, probably, that's something the new super is gonna have to know coming in, hey, this is what's going on, we have a school that's got a declining enrollment.
I
Nothing we
think
can do about that.
Again, go make that strategic planning thing, you know, I think what y'all can do, the new super can take and work with is kind of a plan of action of what you're going to do for the next 3 to 5
Right.
years. And then when that new person comes in, you can take that to that person, it gives them a blueprint to begin
Right.
working with.
Right.
It will change,
Yeah.
things are always gonna change, but at least it's a starting point of what that person.
They didn't walk in and be like,
Yeah.
hey, look here, look what we got.
So,
We didn't do this.
we don't want those kinds of surprises.
Right.
So, so what we can do then is we'll let Mike crunch some numbers on moving more kiddos into that Charter Oak and High Point.
Or however you wanna
schools.
shift them, just
Okay.
where do we get the biggest bang for the buck?
We'll take a look at Leon Heights, what that does to shift that out.
268, what's that number?
Yeah, to
And Templeton has run those before, so.
Okay.
And then we'll get some numbers on sizes of wings, what we can do on wings, we can get a range in. I'd like to, if we can, go and get some cost estimates, and those are pretty basic buildings, my guess is, you know, they can do that. And then we can bring that back to the next meeting, and then that will give you a little more information. What other information do you all need us to bring for that next meeting? Now, by that time, we should have a better idea on the INS remainder. I mean, it's not available, but what we anticipate possibly coming out of the bond remainder.
Oh, 2017 bond?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good number to have.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You will have your audit report by then, so you'll know what your fund balance is, and you'll know how much that you have to have, and you'll know how much over that you have, so you'll have that dollar amount, you'll get that at your December board meeting. What else do you need?
Well, I think it'd be nice as soon as Jennifer can produce that 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, you know, how much room we're gonna have. You know, I'd like to see that as soon as we can, to start putting it towards that
Sure.
strategic plan.
Sure.
And then when we talk about doing a strategic plan, that's something that goes out to the public where they can,
Sure.
they see that, and they can start preparing for these
That's
things.
right. You don't want them to have a surprise. You know, if you're going to do some rezoning for the future, or if you're gonna do something with Leon Heights, and again, I need to visit pronto on what we heard today, but, you know, you want them to know way in advance, so that by the time that you're to that point in time, it's just, you know,
These are all
we know that's
issues.
coming. Yeah.
These are issues that are gonna sting a certain section of people. You know, we just rezoned, and within 2 years, we're gonna move some people around.
Yep.
And then, you know, Leon Heights is gonna be a big deal, for lots of different reasons, you know that.
And if you can take that burden off that new superintendent and go on and have that in something now, that would really lay that person up, I think, nicely.
And also promoting to the public, letting them know what we are doing.
Absolutely.
You know, that's so important,
Yeah.
so they know
know.
we're doing everything we
Yeah.
can to save.
Instead of
money.
just hitting the emergency and trying to do it all at once,
Yeah,
lay it out there.
and then they don't know what all's been done
Mhm.
to prevent.
Well, Templeton is marvelous,
Mhm.
but it's data, I mean, it's not a plan,
No,
it's
it's
not gonna tell you what to do,
Right.
that's your choice.
And when we come up with let's just say we come up with another 5-year strategic plan, do we give that a title of some kind, to kind of a focus for the next 5 years? Is that how you do that?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
something that people
right.
can identify with?
Knowing that's a fluid document, but again, it gives you a starting place, it gives you some talking points in here, it gives you some talking points with your new superintendent, it gives you some talking points out in your community.
Going back to the rezoning thing, when we rezoned everything this last go around, we had 6 public meetings,
Yes.
3 hearings, whatever in the PA, or the fine arts deal. So doing what we're talking about doing this time, this is gonna be handled more by committee, let's just get this done, approve it, that
Yeah,
kind of
because
thing.
we shouldn't be moving anybody from wherever they're zoned, their junior, I mean, based on whatever we see, well, then, since he's been so involved, I'm sure it wouldn't be feasible to move someone suddenly that, you know, is moving to a new junior high. I mean, that's what we did this last time, was we took the whole thing and said, you're going to this high school and junior high, you're going here now.
You're just tweaking lines, you're
Yeah.
having to tweak
We wouldn't move anybody
streets
from where
to
their high
move-
school, they
That
would
was
still.
a new high school, I mean,
Right.
that changed everything,
And-
this doesn't change everything.
And this has been done before, I don't know if it's for capacity, but I know just the time I've been here, that, Sparta has been rezoned 3 or 4 different times, where they'll move a section here, and I mean, and that's not just Sparta, it's every campus.
And that was my next question, are we still planning on the south of the lake?
Don't say the hook.
I said south of the lake.
I was
Yeah.
about to say,
I was thinking the same thing.
There's after we met with Templeton on Monday and kind of met with her again, and we're looking at some options on that. I mean, right now, with current numbers and with future growth, Sparta can't absorb all those kids. So we're gonna have to give a couple of options to probably whether that comes through this committee or policy committee, but we got 2 or 3 recommendations we'll make once we're ready on, and I'll kind of tie that in with this study as well.
I figured
And what we promised them and what we told them in the parent meetings this fall is that we would figure out a fix where they're not put in that same conundrum every year. So
Right.
whether that's coming south, whether that's just letting them all go north, whether that's letting that small group of kids choose. I mean, there's several options and ways to go with it, and we want to be fair and make sure they know, so that every year we don't have this group of 12 to 20 students
In
that are
limbo.
getting split from the other 120 that they were in 5th grade
Right.
with, so. There's several options, but just as far as Sparta, being able to absorb all those students, I don't, just looking at the report we got Monday, there's not gonna be the capacity to do that, so that one's off the table, it looks like.
if y'all think of other things that you need before the next meeting, then just email me, and we'll have those available for you. And we'll start putting together kind of a template that this will fit into.
Mhm.
And so as y'all talk, we'll start plugging into that template, and again, very fluid, but it gets it started. Okay, anything else?
You guys are doing great. I've heard some people around the district talking, it's already noticeable that things are getting done, and it makes the people on these campuses excited, especially the older campuses, we've got a long way to go on a couple
I
of them.
told a few of the principals, I said it won't be Charter Oaks, but it'll look close to it.
Yeah. We really do appreciate what y'all are doing. When I opened it up and saw all the red, I just started grinning, it's just like, we're getting it done.
Oh, Ag barn, you said that.
Yeah, I'd like to.
We're not ready.
Okay.
Okay, we're,
I say we're not ready, I mean, I see them every day, but I've told the ag instructors that are out there, and cause I'm helping them, I said, hey, y'all need to, we need to start working on it, and they are working on it, but they're still trying to figure out, what do we need? And I said, okay, cause I said, the board would like to get out here and walk it and see it, I said, but there's no point in doing that until y'all have a plan, at least say, we'd kinda like to do this, this, and this.
I talked with Brad last night myself,
Yep.
and he said he had talked with, I made sure that we
Yeah.
were coming to this meeting to
Yeah.
know how to address
So
this.
can't put anything on the list till they tell us something.
Something else that y'all may wanna think about as a full board, and Deanna, I was talking about this today, is there's some real innovative things right now that are available, and the district is probably going to be pursuing, and this fits in with all of the facilities and things. You may want to consider a board retreat, a mini retreat, where you meet for 2.5 hours. It's posted like everything else, you do the video, you do public comment, whatever else. Jacob, you're it, you can comment. But you may want to
Say
do
what you
something like
need to
that,
say.
so that you as a group just have time to talk through. There are not gonna be approval items or anything like that, but you need time to sit, plan, talk, think, without having to go yes or no on different items and see how it fits. And your strategic plan may be a good layup into that. So is that anything that y'all are interested in?
Very much so, I don't
Yeah.
think we get to do that enough.
No, who do we bring? Do we bring in someone from TASB to facilitate that? How does that look?
No, we do that.
Okay, y'all do it,
You're not
cause y'all
doing-
can bring the items to us that we
Correct.
need to discuss.
This is not your official team building.
Right, I knew that,
No, this is just a board workshop.
And then, I'm not gonna leave it at this, cause other people have something to say. Is there, based on some of the programs that we do, the C-Tech, the Ag, just some of these programs, is there grant money out there that we can apply for to get funds to do facilities and stuff like that? I mean, I don't know what the rule is, I don't,
Not for facilities
okay.
per se, but we do apply for some
And
discretionary
I know we did a lot of
funding.
different grant stuff, I didn't know if there were, facilities money that was available to help with C-Tech and to help with things like that.
Now, most of the grants are, as a matter of fact, I'm not aware of any grant that would give you money to build a facility.
Okay.
Just because grants right now, they are actually dwindling. They're becoming
Harder and harder.
fewer and
Stay
further
alive.
between, simply because when we get more money allocated into our
Makes
regular
sense?
budget, our regular funding, something usually gets cut, and it's usually grants.
Okay.
Yeah, well said. Okay, unless there's something else that you need, Bob.
Adjourn.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.